The 3 stages of a compulsive pornography habit and how to break out of the cycle. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Let's break it down quickly. Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about the 3 main stages, and then we're going to talk about how to break free, number 2. Okay, so the 3 main stages within the addiction cycle are number 1, intoxication, number 2, withdrawal, and number 3, preoccupation and anticipation. So what happens in each one of those stages? Number 1, in intoxication, the brain's reward centers are releasing and receiving this massive dump of neurochemical release of the seemingly pleasure neurochemicals and pain reduction neurochemicals. And then what happens is there's increased sensitization within those areas. So it's primarily in the midbrain, in the thalamus, and in the prefrontal cortex, and the orbital frontal cortex, and an area called the anterior cingulate gyrus right here in the brain, which one of my great mentors, Dr. Daniel Amen, calls the hamster on the wheel. So that's the hamster that needs to be intoxicated to help him chill out. So what happens during that intoxication is those brain areas increase their sensitization, and they feel great. They feel better than they possibly could feel in the world. So then, if you don't keep going back for more and more and more, number 2 happens, withdrawal. And what withdrawal does to the brain is that there's lower levels. And in that midbrain area, there's increased release of the stress chemicals. Cortisol is a stress chemical. And so then what happens is there's increased sensitivity to stressors and to stress, and decreased ability to deal with those stressors. So the prefrontal cortex that we just talked about, that was really enjoying the high from the intoxication, it now drops out and stops functioning, and it stops guarding the gate because it's hard for it to stand guard without the Kool-Aid that it has been getting. It can't function. It drops out and makes willpower very difficult for a person. This is during the withdrawal stage. So also at this point, there's negative mood that is created by the opposite neurochemicals and the lack of the positive neurochemicals. So moodiness, irritability, like I said, increased sensitivity to stress. So what that means is not only are you more stressed all the time, that things that wouldn't be stressful when you were engaging in the habit because your brain was offsetting it with the positive neurochemicals, those things now stress you out. And the way that that plays out for men is that things that shouldn't stress them out do. And so they're irritable all the time because all these little things become much bigger issues to them because their brain can't handle it on a neurological level. I want you to know that because I work with so many people that are like, I don't get it. If I'm not watching porn, why does it make me so irritable and I just can't deal with stuff? It's because your brain doesn't have the ability to deal with it. So then what happens at the end of that stage is you move into the next stage, which is preoccupation and anticipation. So we know, and I sometimes refer to that as dopamine dripping, that your brain now gets excited because it knows that you're going back for more. And that's the seeking that happens in the reward center. And so the brain will start to give itself that neurochemical release because it knows it's going back for more of the Kool-Aid, and that starts the cycle over and starts the intoxication in the brain before you've even watched porn again. That's the crazy thing about a pornography habit opposed to drugs that you have to intake, that, and it still happens a little bit there, but it happens a lot here in a pornography habit. And the cycle starts all over. Now, why would a brain shift from a casual consumption habit into a compulsion or an addiction? It's because of the neurocircuitry is being thrown off and it's adapting. Neuroadaptation is what it's called. And habituation is the main way that that happens. So the release of those chemical shifts, and your brain has to go back for more to feel just as good as it did a few weeks ago. And so that makes it so that you slide from a casual habit into a compulsion where now your brain needs that neurochemical release so that you don't feel terrible in the world anymore. That's why I call it a slippery slope, and that's why I call it so sleuthy, because when that happens, that shift from casual to compulsive habit is difficult to put your thumb on. And the best way to prevent it is to play a strong offense. And so you never have to get defense on the field. If you have a strong offense and you're able to kick the habit and put some good routines and habits, new thought processes, new feelings in place, and not need to go back to it, you will be able to succeed over time. If you have gotten sucked down that slippery slope, then you need to also run some good D, right? You got to get that D going in those pivot moments when you feel the anticipation and the preoccupation. So I want to touch on this for just a second and then we'll bounce out of here. But people tell me all the time, why can't I get rid of the thoughts? Those thoughts are the preoccupation stage, trying to bring your brain back to the intoxication stage. Know that. That's why I say run, don't walk, because your brain is starting to pull you back to the intoxication. You literally need to put your sneakers on and go for a run and give your brain a nice dopamine dump in a natural way so that you can pivot, so that you don't get sucked down that slippery slope. Because if you have intrusive thoughts and there's preoccupation up there, you're heading towards the intoxication stage. That is the pivot point. So pivot and run. Okay, if you want help in that journey, please reach out to me at drtrishleigh.com. I have programs of all shapes and sizes. I have ones that are affordable, accessible, and anonymous, just like porn. And then I have ones where we get to know each other. And of course, I always prefer that if you're down for it. And as always, control your brain or it will control you.